It's your boy Charles. Charles on as well, just checking in. Hope you guys having a good evening. We are getting ready to delve into another book audio reaction. Let's go ahead and play it, and I'm gonna come back with my reaction. Appreciate it, guys.
An immigrant, Boletta arrived in the U.S. from Jamaica at age 17 in the late 60s. She became involved with a much older Jamaican man named Selwyn Latour. After Christopher was born, Latour fell out of the picture. As it turned out, he had a whole other family in London. Raised in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn, Christopher was an intelligent student who was good at drawing and worked for a time as a grocery bag boy. He began drug dealing when he was about 12, he said, buying polo shirts and fancy shoes with his earnings and stashing them on the roof to retrieve them in the morning before he went to school, so his mother wouldn't suspect. Eventually, Valletta, who was working 2 jobs and obtained a master's degree in education, kicked him out. He traveled to North Carolina to sell rocks and was arrested on a drug charge when he was 17, he said, spending about 9 months behind bars. With a girlfriend named Jan Jackson, he had a daughter named Tiana in 1993. Along the way, he managed to impress some well-connected people with his blossoming rap skills. Big Daddy Kane's DJ, Mr. C, heard his tape and encouraged him to send it to the Source magazine, who selected him for their influential, unsigned hype column. Wallace, whose weight would swell to well over 300 pounds, rapped under the name Biggie Smalls. But after a dispute with those involved with the film from which the handle came, the Sidney Poitier Bill Cosby 1975 movie, Let's Do It Again, he went officially by Notorious B.I.G. A Source editor named Mateo Matty C. Capaluongo played Biggie's tape for Sean Puffy Combs, who worked as an A&R for a hip-hop and R&B label called Uptown Records. Puffy's rise was like something out of a movie. His father, before being gunned down, was an associate of famed Harlem drug kingpin Frank Lucas. Like Tupac, Puffy started as a backing dancer for acts including Heavy D and the Boys, but his career was almost derailed before it began. In 1991, 9 people were killed at an event he organized called the Heavy D and Puff Daddy Celebrity Charity Basketball Game. Held at City College, it was wildly oversold. Fans tore doors off hinges, and gate crashers were crushed up against ticket holders inside a stairwell. A subsequent investigation questioned whether the AIDS education outreach program flyers claimed the game would benefit actually existed. Puffy rebounded from the tragedy, as well as his 1993 firing from Uptown Records. He was headstrong and growing increasingly interested in gangster rap, which was outside Uptown's scope. He took Biggie to his own imprint, called Bad Boy, which was funded with the help of a partnership with Arista Records, founded by Clive Davis. Bad Boy was largely inspired by the styles and tropes of Death Row and The Chronic. New York hip-hop wasn't used to following other cities' trends, but it was hard to deny the appeal of funky, hard-edged rhymes. Notorious B.I.G.'s first appearance was on a remix of Uptown artist Mary J. Blige's 1992 hit, Real Love, followed by his own Party and Bullshit a year later, from the Who's the Man soundtrack. The latter track is a small miracle of pacing, style, and assonance, with Biggie rapping expeditiously about being a terror since the Public era, when he was wielding bathroom passes, cutting classes, squeezing asses. He hadn't quite found his tempo, but his potential seemed unlimited. Biggie himself had an undeniable West Coast influence, listening to Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted before recording his own debut, Ready to Die. One of Biggie's favorite rappers was Compton's King T. He adopted a similar cadence and a love for weed rhymes. Biggie came out here and studied under King T, said Chris the Glove Taylor. When he came out here, he sounded one way, and when he went back, he sounded like King T. Having absorbed the West Coast influence, Biggie emerged with his own dense melodic style, and 1994's well-reviewed game-changing Ready to Die, sold 6 million copies. From a technique perspective, he was untouchable. His rhymes, platonic ideals. With extraordinary timing and breath control, each line inspired the next. Like a high-speed train effortlessly pushing through mountains. The album birthed his most famous track, Juicy, a nostalgic nothing-to-something story that makes everyone who hears it fall for him. 50-inch screen, money green leather sofa, got 2 rides, a limousine with a chauffeur. In the summer of 1994, Biggie married R&B singer and fellow Bad Boy artist Faith Evans, barely a week after their meeting. "When I first saw her, she was killing me with those eyes," Biggie said. "I rolled up to her and said, 'You're the type of girl I will marry.' She said, 'Why don't you?' So I was like, fuck it. It's on." Tupac's lieutenant. Tupac and Biggie first encountered each other in 1993. The latter had a pair of extracurricular goals on his business trip to LA: to find weed and to meet Tupac. A local dealer got a hold of Tupac, who invited Biggie and his party to his house, where he shared with them a big freezer bag of the greenest vegetables I'd ever seen, according to Uptown Records intern Dan Smalls, who was part of the group. Tupac got them high and pulled out a green army bag filled with handguns and machine guns. "So now, here we are in this backyard running around with guns, just playing," continued Dan Smalls in the fader. "Luckily, they were all unloaded. While we were running around, Pac walks into the kitchen and starts cooking for us. He's in the kitchen cooking some steaks. We were drinking and smoking, and all of a sudden Pac was like, 'Yo, come get it.' And we go into the kitchen, and he has steaks and French fries and bread and Kool-Aid, and we just sitting there eating and drinking and laughing. And you know, that's truly where Big and Pac's friendship started." "We all thought he was a dope rapper," said Tupac's longtime friend Edie Amin, a member of Tupac's affiliated group The Outlaws. Tupac gifted Biggie a bottle of Hennessy. Biggie slept on Tupac's couch when he was in California, and when Tupac was in town, he came by Biggie's neighborhood, picking him up in a white limousine and throwing dice with the locals. The pair freestyled back-to-back at a concert called Budweiser Superfest at Madison Square Garden in 1993, with Biggie wowing the crowds with lines like, "Oh my God, I'm dropping shit like a pigeon. I hope you're listening, smacking babies at their christening." Despite the Garden cameo, Biggie still wasn't much known outside of Brooklyn. Tupac, by then a platinum-selling movie star, acted as a mentor. Biggie and other young rappers assembled in record studios or hotel rooms to hear Tupac lecture about how to make it in the game. "Pac could get up and get to teaching," said Edie Amin. "Everyone was transfixed on this dynamic individual and soaking up all the information we could soak up." But Tupac devoted special attention to Biggie, grooming him and letting him perform at his concerts. Biggie even told him he'd like to be a part of his Thug Life group. "I trained the nigga. He used to be under me like my lieutenant," Tupac said. Tupac claimed to have directly influenced Biggie's style. "I used to tell the nigga, if you want to make your money, you have to rap for the bitches. Do not rap for the niggas," he said. "The bitches will buy your records, and the niggas want what the bitches want." As proof that Biggie had heeded his advice, Tupac cited the difference between the aggressive Party and Bullshit and softer Ready to Die hit track Big Papa, which appealed more to the ladies. "Soon as he buy that wine, I just creep up from behind and ask what your interests are, who you be with." But before Ready to Die came out, Biggie worried he could miss his shot, considering the uncertainty surrounding Puffy's new label. Things weren't happening for him quickly enough, he complained to Tupac. He asked Tupac to take over as his manager, in hopes Tupac could advance his music and film career as rapidly as he'd done his own. Biggie looked like he was wearing the same pair of Timberlands for a year, while Pac was staying at the Waldorf Astoria and buying Rolexes and dating Madonna, Idi Amin said. But Tupac declined the offer. Nah, stay with Puff, he told Biggie. He will make you a star.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Charles. Charles and Ezra just checking in. So what do y'all think about that book, man? Pretty interesting, huh? Crazy, man. Interesting story. Listen, go ahead and leave your comments and subscribe to Charles and Ezra. Appreciate it.
For more of these fascinating stories and true crimes, subscribe to Charles Arnis World. Thanks for watching.